I want to talk to you guys about something that I go through in my life personally, and it affects me a lot, unfortunately, sometimes more than others. And I know there are a lot of people that go through this, yet they just don't know how to approach it, they don't know how to talk about it, or they just plainly don't want to talk about it. And I completely understand, because when I first found out, I just didn't understand and didn't even know how to explain it or talk about it. So what I am talking about is anxiety. It is something that I never really knew what it was, or I never really thought like the way that I was feeling is because I was anxious. Like I never knew that. So how it started was one day I was on an airplane, and it was a very long trip, and I was nervous because it was like the first time ever being on such a long trip. So I started to feel like I couldn't breathe. I started to feel very nauseous. I started to feel, I was really nervous, like I was like shaking, and mainly I couldn't breathe. And this is gonna sound really strange, because if you don't suffer from anxiety, you probably won't understand it. But if you do, you might understand where I'm coming from. But how I felt was like I was dying inside, and I couldn't do anything about it. And it was like seriously one of the worst feelings ever in my life. Like the worst thing ever. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't traveling with anyone from my family. I was traveling by myself. I wasn't traveling with a friend or anything. So I did not know what to do. I was freaking out. All I thought was like, just go to the bathroom, walk it off. That kind of made it a little worse. But so right away I just spoke to the flight attendant. I'm like, listen, I don't know what's happening. Can I get like some water? I really don't feel well. Mind you, like we still had like 3 hours of flight time, so it was crazy. So they noticed that there was something wrong with me, and right away she's like, I think you're having a panic attack. That was exactly what was going on, and I didn't know how to handle it at all, because it was the first time. I wanted to get off that airplane immediately. The moment it landed, I was like, I could kiss the ground. It's bad because after you go through a panic attack, your body goes through so much that after it's over, you're very, very sensitive, and just anything can kind of like trigger you, and it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, and you honestly will not understand until you go through it. Some people have it worse than others, and you just kind of have to go through it to understand what you should do and how you should act, or not act, but how you should feel afterwards. Because afterwards, after the panic attack, like I said, you're very, very sensitive, and like it can kind of trigger you into having another panic attack, and it's very difficult. So after that, I was in New York. I was there with my sister. I was meeting my sister there and her friends, and I thought I was fine, you know, after getting off the airplane and feeling okay, and like feeling kind of like that relief of not having to be there anymore. But I wasn't actually okay. I knew that there was something wrong. New York is such a busy city. I wasn't driving, but my sister's friend was driving, and that just like really set me off in a bad mood, and just everything kind of like triggered me and like kind of ticked me off, and I was very sensitive, but I didn't know what was going on. Like it was just something that happened, and I thought I was okay, but obviously I wasn't, and I just kept going with it, and I didn't understand, but I knew there was something wrong. So immediately after I came back home, I decided to speak to somebody about that. So I found, through my hospital and my doctor and all that, I told her about the situation, and immediately she's like, yeah, you do suffer from anxiety, and we can just like, you know, prescribe you medication whenever you're going to be flying, and then you can see a therapist. So I decided to start seeing a therapist. my family didn't really understand what I was going through. They didn't really think it was something. They just thought it was just like being a teenager. I wasn't a teenager. Well, yeah, I was like in adult teenage years. So being, weird and like, oh, it's nothing, whatever, you're just exaggerating. So I didn't really get that support that I actually wanted. And even from one of my siblings, it was kind of like a joke for her. And that was very, very difficult for me because you don't understand what someone else goes through until you go through it yourself. And I feel like with anxiety, people really, really do not understand. They really have to go through it in order to truly understand, or else they'll think you're like a weirdo and a psycho and just like you're just plain weird, which I feel like I'm really not weird. I'm pretty normal. So if you go through this, I'm assuming you understand what I am saying and trying to explain here. I started going to therapy, had a therapist, and I would talk to her about my feelings and about everything I would do. And it was actually really great because I got to understand that going through anxiety is not a bad thing. It's not a great thing because you don't feel great, but it's not a bad thing. And there are many, many, many things that you can do to help you out. To therapy really helped me out a lot because I was able to understand what I was going through, and I was able to speak out my emotions, which I feel like it's very, very important. And you should never let stuff build up in yourself because that literally ruins you. Like if you let things just like you keep it in yourself, you're just building and building and building and building, and then eventually it's just gonna explode and everything's gonna fall down. So I definitely learned, because before I was very much the person that would like keep in myself and not say anything, and I would never want to say anything to like hurt anybody, and I never wanted. But with being like having anxiety, I noticed that you can't keep everything bottled up, and you kind of have to be selfish. Like you kind of have to just think about yourself, because you're the one that's living this life and you're the one that's going through all this. So you can't just keep it all in and then it's gonna affect you. Like I understand like there's many moments where I was just like, I'd rather just stay quiet. I don't want anything, to hurt somebody or, cause any pain. But then at the same time, you're keeping all that in, and then eventually you're gonna cause yourself pain. So you kind of have to learn how to be an adult and be able to talk things through and talk it out with somebody if you have like emotions, like if someone ticks you off or whatever reason. We're all adults, so I feel like you can kind of talk it through with anyone else. That's definitely one thing I learned. Another thing I learned is, let's say you're fine and then all of a sudden you start feeling anxious. You start feeling that anxiety, and it's building because that's how it is. It just starts from little, or it starts from nothing, and then it starts building and building and building until it gets worse, and then you suffer like from a panic attack. So what I learned, once you start feeling a little anxious, what you have to do is distract yourself. So it's very weird to think that you have to distract yourself, but you do. And it helps out so, so, so much, because distraction just like kind of like blocks out away the anxiousness, and it's great. It's such a like relief. When I'm going on an airplane, I try to take as many things. Like I take books so I can distract myself. I take like on my phone, I have like games that like if you look at my phone you're like, why do you even play this game? But it literally distracts me so much. It's such a great like mechanism to use. And then like if there's TV on an airplane, perfect distraction. Many, many things like that. Like I find many things to try to distract myself from building up, because what causes the anxiety for me on an airplane is just that I start thinking too much. and I start to think and think and think and think and think, and then it just starts building up that anxiousness, and then it goes from there. So definitely distractions. So distracting, not keeping everything built up into yourself, and then you just basically, as easy as it sounds, but it's really not that easy if you suffer from anxiety, trust me, but you kind of just have to like relax and let everything fall into place and just like let it be smooth and just relax. And if you have like a hobby or things, like for me, music is very, very soothing and calming. So if I'm feeling anxious, I just, kind of like step away. If I can listen to a few songs and feel better, like that definitely helps me out. So if you have a hobby or something you like to do or something that makes you happy, that's definitely something you want to notice, and you really want to like pursue that, because that really takes away the anxiety. Obviously there's different ways that people feel anxious. We all feel anxious for different reasons or different type of things. Mine, obviously, as I told you guys, is going on an airplane, and being in like confined spaces with too many people, that makes me very anxious. But other than that, those are just like a few tips that I feel like help me out, and I hope they help you out if you're ever watching this video and you suffer from anxiety. If you don't suffer from anxiety, you're lucky. No, I'm just kidding. You are lucky, but it's something that truly you will never understand until you go through it. And maybe you've made fun of someone for going through it. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So, like I said, it's something that you will never understand until you go through it, and hopefully you don't have to go through it, because it's not something that's fun. So if you go through anxiety, I hope these tips help you. If you don't go through anxiety, you're definitely lucky. Be grateful, but trust me, it gets better. I went to therapy, and that really helped me out a lot. I don't go to therapy anymore because I don't feel like I need it, but if you can, that's definitely something I recommend doing. If you can't, definitely the tips that I just gave, I feel like they really help out a lot. So just think that it's gonna get better. It's not gonna go downhill from there. You just have to really understand it and know why it happens, and like what's triggering the anxiety, and then what you can do to stop it. That's all you basically have to do. I know I'm making it sound like it's easy, and it's definitely not. This was literally like, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago that this happened to me. So it's been a while, and until now I kind of feel okay. If you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments. If you don't like this video, it's completely fine. Please don't leave any bad comments down below. But if this helps you, that's mainly what it is for. That's mainly why I want to film this video. So please, if you like it, hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, you might want to subscribe. And if you have any questions, definitely leave them down below. Have a great day.